Once upon a time, in a quiet part of Ogun State, I lived in a house where fear dressed like discipline and silence was safer than honesty. My name is Isabel. I'm 21 years old and I've known fear longer than I've known freedom. My older brother, Nathaniel, who just turned 24, knows it too. But we never talk about it. You don't talk about things in our house, you bury them deep. Our father, Mr. Patrick, was the kind of man who made his children sit up straighter just by walking into the room. He didn't shout often, he didn't need to. His presence alone was enough to silence the birds outside our window. His footsteps were our alarm clocks, our curfews, our boundaries. To the outside world, he was a good man, generous, respected, the kind of church elder who donated to widows and stood up during offering time to drop thick brown envelopes in the basket. He greeted neighbors with warm smiles and drove the pastor's wife to market when her husband was busy. But inside our house, he was a ruler, a god, and we were all careful not to offend him. Our mother, Mrs. Elizabeth, never raised her voice. She raised pots, scrubbed floors, recited market prices like scripture, and if she got one figure wrong, there were consequences. He would sit down with her market list like it was a contract between nations. Why are you buying tomatoes worth 700 naira when 500 is enough? Do you think we're feeding the whole street? Cut off this Milo and milk. Anybody that won't eat eba in this house can go to bed hungry. After all, I didn't eat all those things growing up, and I grew up with sense. And when she came back from the market, bags hanging on both hands, sweat soaking her wrapper, the real work began. She would kneel by the dining table while he pulled everything out, counting receipts, checking peppers like customs officers check luggage. Even Maggie cubes were accounted for. Explain this 50 naira balance, he said one day, eyes squinting. I, uh, it was for extra nylon. The pepper woman didn't have small change. Slap. Nathaniel and I sat on the couch, motionless, pretending not to hear. But we always heard. You couldn't not hear. Even the walls in our house flinched. We weren't allowed to watch TV except on Saturdays, 1 hour, no more, and only if we had finished chores and scored well in our weekly Bible recitation test. The only thing we were allowed to watch was Superbook, that old Christian cartoon with time traveling kids and a floating Bible robot named Gizmo. I remember one Saturday I tried to change the channel after the show ended. What are you doing? He asked from behind. I froze, my fingers hovering over the remote like they were about to commit murder. The time is up, he said. Yes, sir. Notice we called him sir, not daddy. I clicked it off. Even Nathaniel, who had grown taller than him, never challenged his rules. We all followed them like scripture. We feared the man more than we feared hell. And what terrified me most was this was the only kind of home I had ever known. He didn't drink and he never missed church, but still, there was something fundamentally broken about a man who smiled at strangers and bruised the woman who cooked his meals. Sometimes I wondered if my mother ever wanted to leave, but then I'd see her smoothing out his socks or measuring out rice like he taught her, and I'd know the answer. We were all prisoners. Some wore chains around their wrists, other wore it around their mouths. I wore mine in my chest. I think I always knew. I just didn't have the words for it yet. It was during Sunday class, long before I understood what desire really meant. Back then, it was just something warm I couldn't explain. Something that felt like curiosity wearing perfume. Her name was Jessica. She was my closest friend that year. The kind who made silence feel full, like it was humming with secrets. Jessica always smelled of baby lotion and mango sweets. She'd hold my hand playfully and trace invisible symbols on my palm, pretending to read my future. You'll marry a rich man, she'd tease, giggling. But sometimes she'd go quiet while her fingers lingered. She'd draw tiny shapes along the lines of my palm, especially the long one. What was it called again? Lifeline? And whenever she dragged her fingertip across it, something fluttered in my belly. I never said anything, just smiled too long and swallowed too hard. But it wasn't until I got to boarding school an all girls secondary school in Ogun State, that it clicked. It was the first day of SS1, and I was assigned to a top bunk in Yellow House. My sidey bunkmate was Vanessa. The moment I saw her, something shifted. She was from Port Harcourt with skin the color of roasted cashew and the kind of eyes that looked like they knew more than they said. Even in oversized houseware, she carried herself like she was born knowing how to move in small, quiet ways that made you look twice. She was in a different class, but we always seemed to cross paths. Sometimes, after evening prep, I'd be on my toilet about to head to the bathroom, and I'd catch her watching me, unblinking. She never looked away in shame, just tilted her head slightly as if to say, I see you. The first thing she ever said to me, she looked up from tying her wrapper one night and said, Your moles got bigger overnight. Casual, as if commenting on the weather. And then she returned to her notes, leaving me speechless, burning quietly inside like someone had lit a match between my ribs. Things were always quiet between us, nothing direct, just a language we spoke without speaking. Our elbows brushing too long, her laughter when I was upset, her glances when she thought I wasn't watching. Then one night, everything changed. It was past midnight. The hostel was dark and filled with soft snoring and mosquitoes humming near our ears. I had woken up feeling strange, like there was something trapped under my skin, begging to be let out. I don't know how to explain it. Just that ache, that tingling heat. You know what I'm talking about. I gave into it, tentative at first, then slowly, with more intention, just trying to feel better, to understand my own body, the way a lady does when she's alone with herself. That was when I saw the beam of light. I froze. My hands jerked away instinctively. It was her. Vanessa stood by my bed with a small flashlight in hand, her eyes calm, too calm. She came closer and crouched beside me, whispering, Isabel, what were you doing? I wanted to lie, but the air between us already knew the truth. She looked at me, long and steady. Show me, she said, caressing my cheeks with her trembling fingertips. I hesitated. Then, slowly, I moved again, the shame burning through me like hot oil. But she didn't laugh or run. Instead, she leaned in close and asked, Were you enjoying it? I nodded, eyes wide, afraid to blink. She smiled, small, knowing, and leaned in even closer until her breath brushed against my neck. Don't make a sound, she whispered, and then she kissed me. Soft at first, hesitant, but when I didn't pull away, her lips pressed harder. And just like that, whatever innocence I had left unraveled under that kiss. That night changed everything. It was the first time I truly felt like myself. After that night with Vanessa, I barely slept. I lay on the top bunk, my fingers trembling, my heart knocking like it had something urgent to confess. Our intimate moment played over and over in my head. How her lips had tasted like buttermint and courage, how her hand had gently rested on my arm as if to say, You are safe here with me. But when the sun rose and the snores in the hostel turned to yawns and chatter, everything inside me shifted. I didn't look at her that morning. I couldn't. I wasn't sure what I was more afraid of, what we had done, or how much I had liked it. Because no matter how warm it had felt, I knew what it meant. I knew the story. Sodom and Gomorrah, fire and brimstone, women that looked at women like that were not just wrong, they were damned. That was the only version I had ever heard in church, in school, at home. I remember the way Reverend Olumide would say it. Homosexuality is a perversion of God's natural design. It is an abomination, unnatural, demonic, and punishable by eternal fire. People would nod solemnly, even me. I used to nod too. Now I just stared at the ceiling and wondered if it was already too late for me, if I was already marked. When the holidays came, I returned home with a suitcase, stiff limbs, and a sin too big to name. The house still smelled like antiseptic and cooked egusi. The curtains hadn't changed. Neither had detention, but something was different. Me. I had grown. My hips had curved out more and had begun to fill out my blouse in ways I couldn't hide. I noticed it in the way my mother looked at me, like I was no longer her little girl, but something else, a woman. The talk happened 2 days after I got back. She called me into the kitchen while watching okra. Isabel, she said without turning around. Yes, ma. You're no longer a small girl. You're a woman now. You're an adult in age and in appearance. I stayed quiet, sensing where this was going. She turned to face me and wiped her wet hands on her wrapper. Her eyes scanned my chest, my hips, then my face. Listen carefully. If a man ever crosses your legs, even once, you will fall pregnant. Just like that, Sam, your life will change. You will bring shame to this family, and you know your father. She didn't even finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Of course, I knew my father. The man who turned silence into a weapon. The man who once used a broomstick to correct Nathaniel for forgetting to boil water. The man whose voice carried the authority of scripture even when he was wrong. I nodded. Yes, ma. Her eyes softened just slightly. Then I noticed it. Her lower lip, swollen, bruised. Mommy, what happened to your mouth? She turned away quickly, opening a cupboard as if she hadn't heard me. And that's when I saw it. Her stomach, slightly rounded, fuller than usual. My hand moved instinctively toward it. Are you? Before I could finish, she slapped my hand away. What are you doing? She snapped. I blinked. Are you pregnant? She hesitated just for a second, but it was enough. Then came her voice, sharp and shaky. Don't ask me that kind of silly question. Do you hear me? I nodded again, eyes stinging. Later that week, Nathaniel and I sat in the backyard peeling yam. He'd been oddly quiet since I returned. I asked him, did something happen while I was in school? He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, Mommy lost the baby. I froze, yam still in my hand. She was really pregnant? He nodded. 5 months. How? His grip tightened around the knife. Our father beat her the night she came back late from church, accused her of being unfaithful, called her all sorts of names. My hands trembled. The house I called home was not a home. It was a holding cell, a place where women bled in silence and still had to kneel and say, Yes, sir. I began to long for school, not for the classes or the food, but for the small freedoms, the whispered laughter, the glances. Vanessa. But I didn't know that the one thing I considered safe was about to become dangerous too. 2 weeks into the holiday, as I returned from the estate's tiny provision store, I saw a familiar figure unloading boxes from a truck. My heart stopped. Vanessa. She wasn't in school uniform. She was in shorts and a blue tank top with her signature low-cut hair. Her skin still glowed in that roasted cashew way I remembered. She turned and caught me staring. She smiled. My stomach flipped. I dropped the sachet water I was holding because, just like that, she was no longer a secret hidden behind hostel curtains. She was here, on my street, in my world, and I didn't know it yet. But this was the beginning of the end. I stood there frozen, the nylon bag slipping from my hand as Vanessa waved from her compound. It felt like my world had shifted slightly off balance. Vanessa, yeah. We ran to each other, stopping just before our bodies touched. You didn't tell me, I said breathlessly. She laughed, equally stunned. I didn't know either. My parents just said we were moving. They didn't say where exactly in Ogun. I only found out yesterday when we drove in and I saw the estate name. We stared at each other for a moment too long. My ears buzzed from the heat of it all. Come, she said. Come inside. That was the beginning of something beautiful and dangerous. We began seeing each other often, only when my father wasn't home, of course. I told my mother I was going to visit a schoolmate. Which one? She asked the first time, rinsing rice in the kitchen sink. Vanessa. Girl or boy? Girl, of course, Mo. Mommy Vanessa is a girl's name. That was enough. She didn't ask again. In her mind, all boxes were ticked. No boy, no threat, no shame, no problem. Just another girl like me. Nathaniel never said anything either. Maybe he knew, maybe he didn't, but he never stopped me. Vanessa's parents, on the other hand, were hardly ever home, and when they were, they left her alone, as though she was old enough to own her space. She would roll her eyes at them sometimes, but I envied it. That freedom. So we climbed the stairs to her room, closed the door, and locked it. Behind that door weren't sinners or women with secrets. We were just two people who needed each other. We kissed slowly, quietly, carefully at first. Then we got bolder. Our fingers learned things. Our bodies taught us lessons we never read in books. It was soft, gentle, maddening, healing. Every time I lay in her bed with my head on her chest, I wondered if maybe we were wrong about what was wrong. But one day, we forgot. We forgot the door. We had just finished. Our skin was still warm, our legs tangled together beneath her yellow bedsheet. Her hand was tracing lazy circles on my stomach, while my fingers played with her low cut hair. Then the door suddenly opened, slammed open. Her mother stood there, eyes wide, mouth frozen, groceries spilling from the bag in her hand. The silence was instant. Then came the scream, loud, high pitched, from the pit of something ancient and furious. What is going on here? I shut up, Vanessa's hand still on my arm, frozen. Jesus Christ, her mother screamed. Vanessa, what is this? That brought her father running. And the moment he stepped in and saw us, bare, trembling, terrified, the world exploded. What have you turned my daughter into? Before I could answer, a stab thundered across my face. Vanessa tried to shield me. Daddy, stop! Stop! But he shoved her aside and dragged me from the bed. I managed to wear my dress. His grip was like a chain. Let me go, please, I begged. Please don't! But he didn't listen. I was hauled out like contraband. The neighbors stared. My legs tumbled down the stairs, my chest burning with shame and panic. He didn't stop. He was taking me to my house, and all I could think about was my father. I was praying, no, begging that he wouldn't be home, that maybe I could get to my mother or Nathaniel and explain, plead, promise, anything to stop it from reaching him. But just as we turned into my compound, I saw it. That familiar silver car pulling in behind us like judgment. No, I stopped walking. My knees gave out. I dropped to the floor and knelt before Vanessa's father, eyes soaked, voice cracking. Please, please, sir, don't do this. I'm begging you, please. But his voice thundered over me, unshaken. Your parents must hear this. They must hear what kind of daughter they've raised. And I cried. Cried like I was already being buried alive. Vanessa's father didn't flinch. He banged on the gate until our security man opened it, dragging me inside like I was meat from the abattoir. My knees scraped the cement. Shame clung to me like second skin. And then I heard his voice, my father's voice. What is the meaning of this? He asked, stepping out from his car, slamming the door. Your daughter, Vanessa's father spat. Your daughter has defiled my home. She's a disgrace. My father narrowed his eyes. What are you talking about? Vanessa's father pushed me forward. I caught her with my daughter, bare, in bed, doing God knows what, like animals. Your wayward child. Silence. Then the laugh. It came low, slow, mean. My father shook his head, lips curled in scorn. You are dragging her like a thief. Who the hell do you think you are? He said. You think you can come here and disgrace my family because you can't control your spoiled child? Control? Vanessa's father fired back. At least I know what I saw. They were together, doing it. Your daughter is rotten to the core. And just like that, the smile vanished from my father's face. Inside the house was a storm waiting to happen. The second the front door shut behind us, it began. He slapped me before I could even explain. Again and again. You filthy thing, you shameful disgrace. I stumbled into the dining table. Please, Daddy, I will kill you today. His voice rose, split the ceiling, shattered the silence we once called home. He shoved me hard against the chair, then turned to my mother. You see what your breeding has cost? This is your child, this demon, my mother's lips trembled. Please, you need to take it easy. Shut up, he barked. I knew it. I knew you were corrupting them. I said it. But no, I was the bad father, the wicked husband. Look now. He grabbed his koboko from behind the door. The sound it made when it landed across my back tore something open inside me. Not just skin, something deeper. I screamed. He struck again and again. Nathaniel ran out from his room. Daddy, stop. You will kill her. Daddy, stop. But my father didn't stop. He turned on Nathaniel and lashed him across the chest. You want to defend her? Is she your wife now? You've joined the nonsense? Then came the worst part. He pounced on my mother, grabbing her by her wrapper, shouting, slapping. You think you can raise demons under my roof? You want to turn my son against me and my daughter into an animal? She fell. He descended. My mother wailed. From where I was on the floor, I crawled forward. Daddy, please. Daddy, please stop. But he didn't. I will kill all of you. I will bury this shame before it buries me. But then, a crack. Not a sound, a crack. I looked up just in time to see Nathaniel standing behind him, pistol in both hands, eyes red, breathing hard. It came down. The rage was deeper than reason. It had lived inside us for years, starved and festering, and now it had a weapon. It led to the end. There was banging at the door, loud, urgent, angry. What is going on in there? Open the door. We will call the police, so they called the police. Nathaniel was taken, shirt soaked in blood, eyes blank like something inside him had gone quiet forever. He didn't resist. They put cuffs on him while my mother screamed, and I screamed too, shaking, cradling my knees in the corner. We got a lawyer. The lawyer said it could be self defense, said the years of abuse might help his case. The trial in court lasted 5 years, and in all those years, my brother was locked up. But as God would have it, the judge pronounced him not guilty. My brother was released, finally, after 5 years of so much pain and uncertainty. And me, I'm still here, carrying this weight around like a second spine. Vanessa and her parents packed up and moved the same week that everything crashed. I hadn't heard from her since, and I wasn't expecting to. Sometimes I catch my mother staring at me, quietly, long, and I wonder if she blames me, if she believes my sin is what broke our home, if I am the match that lit the gasoline we'd all been sleeping in, or maybe it was always going to end like this. Maybe the man we called father just ran out of time. Nathaniel came home thinner, quieter. The boy who once peeled yam in the backyard now barely touched food. We don't talk about that day. We don't talk about what it cost him or what it cost all of us. But sometimes, when I pass his room and see the light still on at 3 a.m., I wonder if the silence ever left his bones. He doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't laugh much. But when he sees me, he nods, just once. And I think maybe that is his way of saying, you survived. So did I. I went to the store to buy paracetamol for my headache yesterday. I was at the counter making payment when I felt a presence stand beside me. I turned and my heart nearly went out of my chest. Standing before me was no other person but her, Vanessa, my Vanessa. And I knew right there and then that our story would have a happy ending.